Drums of War, Chapter 22, Imperator. About the rings of a gas giant. "Don't let the fucker get away!" Captain Lena Chen screamed as the maneuvers Jameson was pulling overcame the gravity field and pressed her into a captain's chair. "I need a better angle," Maria said, and the bridge crew found themselves pressed into the other side of their chairs. "Got him! Firing!" "Hit!" Lee reported from his terminal. Then after a second, "Killed them!" The crew of the speed battle wagon cheered at their success. "All right, that's another exarch little one on our hull," Captain Chen told the crew. "Let's find another one before the Romans get all of our kills." "Fuck the baby killers," one of the officers answered. "Kill them all," the rest of them shouted at the same time. Captain Chen had warmed up to the Romans, even though they were weirdos. The fact that she'd been planning on doing hit-and-run attacks on the enemy wherever she found them, but found the Romans already fighting, went a long way in that. Their willingness to refill her ammo went a longer way. 2 days ago, the enemy had finally broken, and didn't notice that the Romans had hyperspace interdiction across the entire solar system. "Captain," came her chief engineer's voice over the speakers. "Go ahead, May. The reactor's getting a little hot. We're going to have to take a break." "Crap. Alexei, have we heard anything from the Defense Committee?" "No," the communications officer said. "I would have told you already. The Republic and the fucking Romans will solve this problem before we get off our asses." "In other news," Alexei said glumly, "the pacificians have started their response." "Great," Marcus scoffed. "The pacifists. Everyone is fucking conspiring to give the CIP a bad name." "Can the complaining, we're not the only militia ship out there." "Yes, Captain," Marcos said, as he looked over a more detailed report from the chief engineer. "We're going to need more than a cooldown cycle. May and her team can keep us spaceworthy, but there are some components that should be replaced before they fail." "All right, make for the weird temple ship again." "Incoming," Lee warned, before anyone could think. Jameson had already slammed everyone against their crash webbing or seatbacks, depending on which side of the bridge their station was on. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Chen ordered, belatedly. "Where'd that shot come from?" "One of the big ones," Lee answered. "They were hiding behind that moon." "Calculating firing solution. We can get another fatty." "They're trying hard to kill us," Marcus observed as he worked furiously at his station. "Using this firing solution first," he ordered as he sent a packet to Maria. An eager glint flashed in her eyes as she gave the calculations a once-over and some minor corrections. "Yes, sir. Firing 1. Firing solution 2 found. Firing 2. "Looks like they didn't notice," Lee said. "They're moving to take cover behind the moon." A wicked grin split Captain Chen's face, and she said, "Let's encourage them to walk right into that first shot, will we?" "That dude with the paintbrush hat is going to be very jealous," Marcus said smugly. "Firing. Miss. But they're putting themselves right where you want them." Elsewhere in the system, on the bridge of the temple ship Jupiter's Might. "Hello," the priestess Valaria Lunia stated as she zoomed in on the section of space displayed above the command altar. "The merchants to slay another of the battleships, such as they are, while our forces do harry the main retreat." Fleet Admiral Lucius Maximus Decimus smiled. "They carry Mercury's blessing to be so swift." "And of Mars," Pontifex Maximus Quintus Verus observed. "This Captain Chen and her merchant crew do fight all the fiercer for the fact that they do so without the support of the CIP. We complain over the Senate's bickering," General Octavia Aurelio said, "yet their committees and councils make even them appear decisive. They will eventually simply attach themselves to the Republic forces as auxiliaries. So why do they pretend that they shall decide differently? Pride! The same reason our Captain Friend came burning into the system to do injury to the Exarch Dominion with her lone ship. Though she uses her pride well, the pride of the bickering, chattering rulers is what truly rules the committees," Pontifex Maximus Quintus Verus opined. "I think you speak well, Pontifex. But the CIP were only so contentious as the Senate. They would have already become involved. Would that they could. They would field their own force under their own banners, as we do," General Octavia Aurelius said. "I see well the state of the battle in the heavens. Let us now look upon how goes the battle upon the ground." "As you desire," High Priestess Valeria Lunia intoned, as she changed the view to display the state of the ground invasion. "Your legions do advance apace. Fleet Admiral Lucius Maximus Decimus noted. They have become stalled upon the secondary continent at the fourth city. Let us see what delays them, the general replied. You see keenly, Pontifex Maximus Quintus Verus said approvingly as the High Priestess zoomed in on the area requested. I had missed this, and it appears that the enemy has dug in here and Gaius Maximus Flavus has begun to besiege the city. The general pressed his palm onto the altar and ordered, Aurelius Antonius, bring your century up and pass by that of Flavius. He shall be occupied with siege. Cut off any enemy ground forces attempting to reinforce the city. Hail came the affirmation. The leaders nodded to each other. The battle was proceeding well. Upon the surface of the clans of Uldra Administrative World 4, Aurelia Antonius had received the orders from above, both literally and figuratively, but she had already been making preparations to carry them out. She knew Flavius was besieging the city, or rather the section of the city that was more densely packed than the rest of the planet, and knew well that the Exarch would prefer to reinforce the fortifications there. Fortifications being generous as a description that the Exarch had hastily constructed once they had learned that their possession of the planet would not go uncontested. Her scouts had returned with intelligence on just such an effort just before General Octavia Aurelia had contacted her. Even so, it did her, and more importantly her legionaries, good to know that the general was watching over them closely. Thus, when she ordered mount up, they all took up their places around the vehicles. Speed was imperative in this moment, and thus her men rode upon tanks or the backs of scouting vehicles, all those in the van in the troop compartment of the transport vehicles, which meant that her flanks were exposed as they drove to get into position before the enemy could get into the twisting warrens of a dense urban environment. A shame for the enemy that they weren't as keen as her scouts, yet a boon for her. The suburban streets and highways were somewhat more accommodating for her troop movements. Still though, abandoned civilian vehicles, burned-out husks, barricades, and even a daring and doomed raid slowed her down. 5 infantrymen with inferior weapons and armor had no hope of doing anything other than mildly inconveniencing a single squad. She got into position, put her infantry across the main thoroughway, and disposed her auxiliaries on the flanks and waited. Then, the enemy politely marched straight into her infantry. She had heard tell that the Republican army finds the ancient name of Pila for their rifles to be cute. She didn't think the enemy found supersonic tungsten very cute. Yet she was a sentry, and they were many. Many whose plasma weapons had no effects upon the scooter of the men. Rank upon rank of Exarch marched into the withering fire undeterred. The fools charged. The line of corpses was pressed ever forward as the uncannily human-like Exarch pressed forward, heeding their fallen brethren enough to not stumble in their blood until they were a mere stone's throw away from the front lines. Apparently, they believed that they would have better chances at close quarters. Still, they pressed forward, those at the fore pushed by the sheer weight of their fellows. Aurelia found herself disgusted. Whoever commands these men does waste their lives upon our swords. Indeed, her first lieutenant agreed, the Republic accuses us of using outdated tactics, and yet the enemy uses sheer numbers like the Soviets in the ancient past. The Republic is mighty beyond our means. They may accuse our traditions of lagging if they wish. They are likely correct, she admitted. Even so, it is we who arrived upon this field of battle first. I should thank the gods that our enemies are fools, for fewer of the legionaries shall perish or suffer injury. Yet I long to strive. It seems that we shall cause to strive with the strength of our arms, for they come too close to use the pillar safely. She ordered the cavalry tanks to encircle the charging enemy infantry, and gave her lieutenants discretion for their units. They went to Gladai. She smiled and drew and activated her Spatha. Roma Nova would have the glory of defeating the Exarch Dominion in the system, and perhaps 3 more before the Republic could catch up. End of chapter. I'd quickly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.